Good day, and welcome back to Apples to Zucchinis. As you can see, I'm sitting here in front of one of our big windows here, enjoying the sunshine as it comes in. It's minus 27 outside, but it's a nice 20 degrees Celsius inside. I don't plan to do any gardening outside. As a matter of fact, I don't plan to do anything outside, so I plan to stick to the indoor garden. I closed down the basement grow room because it just was too cool down there, and the plants could get a lot better natural sunlight up here. And they've done really well. The grow room upstairs is doing really well. As you saw in my previous video, I dismantled and took apart the one downstairs. This just wasn't doing as well as the one up here, and I actually got more space by combining the two tables together. I kept the thermometer up here to monitor the temperature from day to day. At night, it hasn't gone much below 19 degrees, and during the day, we're seeing it well above 20, up to almost 24, 25 degrees Celsius. So why don't we take some time now and let's go look around the individual plants and see how things are doing.
These are called hyacinths, otherwise known as blue jackets. These bulbs we picked up in the store back in December. They were left over from the fall sale. It's too late really to put them outside, and there's some good sales to be had. We actually got these for about 50 cents a bag. We only got one bag, about 4 bulbs, and they've done quite well. The nice thing about having to grow these indoors is the flowers only open really one at a time, and with 3 of them going, it was quite strong but not too overbearing. They do give a nice perfumey type smell, which we really liked to have in the house, and is ready for transplanting these outside. We'll go ahead and move them out and add them to our flower bed. So this is the cabbage plant that I grew from the bottom of a cabbage. If you look back in my previous videos, you'll see how that went. But it grew a couple of stems. Now this is the second shortest stem. It's trying to grow some flowers. It doesn't seem to be doing so well. But I'm just going to leave this and see how it goes. But the main tall stem has done really well for flowers. And we can see we got a lot growing here, and on the tip we even got more flowers. The tip keeps growing and keeps adding flowers. So I go through each day, and I just use my pinky finger to transfer the pollen. And I do this for all the flowers, and I repeat this each day until the petals start to fall off. Here we can see I've got a little bit of pollen on my finger. And once the petals start to fall off, this shows that the pollen has taken and the seed pods are going to start to develop. So on the flower, what you're going to notice is in the center we have the stigma, and surrounded that we have multiple stamens, and at the end of the stamen we have the pollen. And so we want to use an object to pick up some of the pollen from the anthers and transfer it to the stigma in the center. And this is basically how we pollinate a flower. For better results from pollination, it's best to actually take the pollen from one flower and apply it to the stigma of another flower. But you have to be careful when you go from one plant to another plant, as you can get cross-pollination if they are two separate or different breeds. So we can make out the shape of the seeds in the seed pod here. So it looks like I'll have some seeds to grow some cabbages in our garden in the future. I showed you the seed packets I was going to start in this grow tray, and this is when I just planted those in the tray, and we've got everything organized there. And within a couple of days they germinated very quickly. The cucumbers only took about 2 days to actually poke through the soil, and the kohlrabi was shortly followed. So we're doing really good here, and we're getting good heights on these English cucumbers, and we're going to have to transplant these out of here right after this because they're touching the top of the tray. The kohlrabi is coming out pretty good, and what else we have here? We have more kohlrabi. We got the squash soleil. They're germinating. We've got 3 coming out here, and right next to them we've got some blue ice flowers. Just to the top here we got our yellow zucchinis. They're coming up nicely. And then some of our daisies and our other flowers, some are starting to poke through, but we'll have to wait a bit on these. Yeah, they shouldn't be that far. So I'll go ahead and repot these cucumbers and keep an eye on everything else, and as they get to that size I'll have to take them out, or I may even just start to leave the tray off as it's just too short for a lot of these plants once they start to get about an inch above the soil. And I'll do another update on those later. I've started a bunch of our flower seeds in various different pots here. I don't have another grow tray for these, so it'll take a little bit longer without the heat. But I've got quite the variety of flowers, from pink gardinas, poppies, portulacas, and some other flowers where I don't necessarily know the name. So what I have is a description of the flower. Once they grow, I'm going to look up what that flower is and mark that back to my seed packet so I can update my seed packets on what seeds I do have. It's going to be our mystery plants. Here I have a hollyhock. This is going to be an interesting flower. Don't think I've ever grown anything quite that tall before. This is the same corn as I grew last year. This is a sweet Canadian corn, an F1. I started this indoors last year and did very well, and so this year I'm starting these indoors. I've got about 5 or 6 growing here, and they're doing very well. They're about the right height. I didn't have them started this early last year, but I managed to get about 2 or 3 cobs per plant. So these are the mini pumpkins. I've got a few growing here, about 3 or 4, and these 2 are doing really well. I'm cutting off the flowers as they come out, as I want it to focus on just growing the plant. The grape here is doing okay. I repotted it, put it in a new pot. The roots were very strong, but I'm waiting for the top to catch up. I've got a volunteer dill growing in this pot. I may just repot this somewhere else so I can reuse this space. I planted this pomegranate quite a while back, possibly back in December, and it was taking so long I wasn't sure anything was going to come out or germinate, but sure enough we actually have one coming up. And it's probably because we've had this in the window and the sun's high enough that we're getting a lot of heat now through this window, and it's really brought up the soil temperature. As well, the habanero peppers are starting to make a showing. Got about 3 or 4 of them coming out here. Looks like 4. And I'm really looking forward to seeing if I can grow some habaneros this year. This would be the first time I've ever grown habanero peppers. Another new member to our garden is our persimmons. I've got 5 here in the tray. There were 6. I took one out earlier, and in my previous videos I showed how it was stuck in its shell and had grown much like the one to the left here, and it wasn't really coming out of the shell. And so I took a look at the shell. I tried to see if I can help it in any way, and it was really stuck on, and the leaves had actually rotted inside. So I had to throw the whole thing out, which was not a big disaster since I have 5 more growing here. The one on the right, I had also taken the shell off. Unfortunately, I was able to get it off before the rot got too bad. I'm not too sure about the left one. I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to let it do its thing since I've got quite a few growing here. These are the cherry tomatoes that were growing in a very small red pot. I had about 3 or 4 of them in there. And so I transplanted them into larger pots, and they've just taken off. They're really enjoying the big open space they have now. And so this is a beefsteak tomato plant where I had actually chopped it down. It had grown about 3 feet, and I've chopped it down to about 6 inches. I want the branches to grow out and let them bush up a little bit more so that I can try some different pruning methods I've been learning about on this tomato plant. With the cuttings, I took them, cleaned them up, and I just put them in some water to see if they'll grow some roots. Perhaps I might be able to take these and grow some more tomato plants, because we can never have too many. The pepper plants are doing very well. These are Thai chili peppers. I've got a lot of them growing here because I do want to try some pruning methods on these as well when they get much bigger. I hope you enjoy this rather quick tour of the garden with all that's going on. There is a lot to update on, but do stay tuned and I'll be showing some more very soon.